Great. Hey, so thanks everybody for making some time today. We were brainstorming over the last couple of weeks about if there was some ways to form a community around people who are doing media and entertainment workflows in AWS or in the cloud, and in AWS specifically is what our interest is. So we figured we would just give this a try, a virtual meetup. For this first one, we kind of wanted to start small instead of inviting the whole world and going broad and trying to promote it. So we're hoping to get somewhere around 10 people, which turns out exactly where we are here. There might be a couple more who join, but our intent is to host the Zoom, but not much else going forward. Speaking for Ludo and I at TrackIt. So it's just, hopefully over time, it just becomes an open forum. People bring their ideas or problems or things that are interesting they want to learn more about using the cloud for media and entertainment workflows. And we'll see how today goes. Hopefully it goes well. And if it does, we'll try and do this. I think we're talking about maybe the last Thursday of every month, and kind of see where it takes us. So I do have a couple of suggested topics that I can kick this off with, but before I do, open forum, and if there's anything that anybody specifically thinks would be a good topic, I'd love to hear about them. I'll start madly taking notes, and maybe we hit them this time, maybe we hit them next time. Comments, suggestions from anybody?
I mean, just given the size of the group, Brad, would it make sense for just everyone to kind of introduce themselves, given that that wouldn't be overly kludgy with this size of a group?
Sure, makes sense. Well, Josh, why don't you go first?
Yeah, sure. So everybody, my name is Josh Lindenbaum. I'm the Director of Cloud Business Development for Cumulo. We are a cloud file storage technology that probably our largest vertical is media and entertainment. We have a software product that deploys both on-prem and natively in the cloud. And so some of our kind of high-profile AWS customers would be Cinesite, FuseFX. I can't put it in writing, but I'll say NBCU, AT&T, people like that, and three different workflows that we support.
Great. Yeah, it does seem maybe it's because of Ludo and I's background and who sees our invites, but there's a lot of storage guys on this call.
Okay.
So we might as well go through them. Roger, how about you?
Sure. My name is Roger Beck. I work at ScaleLogic, Minnesota-based company, and we don't do a lot with cloud right now. We have partnered up with Backblaze, for example, and we have our own wrapper client, remote access portal, which kind of turns your local LAN storage into a shareable storage. And we're looking for new opportunities to see what is the need on the market, where can we jump in to build solutions to help them to be more efficient and productive.
Okay. How about William? How about you?
Hey everyone, so I'm William Bowden. I'm with DDN Storage. And so it's been really interesting I come from the media business, quite a bit of experience in media background. And the last 2-3 years, I've been kind of shifting entirely into deep learning. And so obviously very focused on on-prem storage, but also hybrid workflows. So these big imaging workflows where we store, accumulate, and process massive amounts of data in the cloud. So I'm kind of curious to see how much, it was easy to translate one way. I'm kind of curious to see now, what can we translate back to the media space? So thanks for having us, Brad and Ludo. This is great.
Appreciate it. So I see we've got a couple of Impress guys. Dave, you want to give us your intro?
Sure. So I have a colleague with me. So I'm Dave Miller with EMAM. We do media asset management, and we're pretty agnostic about storage. Nothing personal on anybody, and also clouds. So a lot of requests coming in are specifically AWS Cloud. But having said that, we work with everybody's cloud and then work a lot with on-prem and hybrid systems. So a lot of flexibility there. And very exciting. So, I mean, whether people are all in the cloud or at least partial in the cloud, but it opens up, you know, microservices and tools and bells and whistles and integrations. So it's a very exciting time. Chuck is my colleague. Chuck, you want to add anything?
Yeah, so Chuck Bulow, I'm the VP of Business Development here at Impress, or EMAM now. So yeah, we basically, a lot of customers kind of looking more in that hybrid mode, and then some shift to the cloud. They're trying to figure out, you know, how to edit from the cloud. So we've partnered with a lot of storage companies like Cumulo and others, and being able to provide kind of a hybrid combination. We've also, strangely enough, worked with a company out in California called Lucid Link, and they actually allow us to stream and edit directly from cloud storage. And so it's kind of interesting how that kind of plays into it as well. But what's interesting is, you know, kind of doing that with streaming in production, but then using more, you know, traditional cloud and on-premise storage for, you know, long-term usage and things like that for the media. But production-wise, I think a lot of customers are kind of looking for that kind of remote edit, you know, stream in the cloud and so on. So that's kind of where we're headed at with a lot of different customers.
And there's one other person, I think it's Richie Murray, it's fireflies.ai. Richie, is that you? I'm not exactly sure what that, or if that's some sort of automated note-taking application Richie found. Okay, so that's going to be a mystery. Some of you guys probably know Richie Murray from Bridge Digital. He's been in and around the media and entertainment business for quite a long time, and he did RSVP. So we've got a couple of TrackIt people on here as well, a few TrackIt people. So I'm Brad Winnett. I'm the president of TrackIt. Along with Ludo, we are an advanced consulting partner for AWS. We do a lot of media and entertainment workflows, and after we do the intros, I have a few suggested topics, and you know, we can raise some hands and talk about the ones we want, and including some of the things that we've implemented fairly recently that I think people find interesting. So we can talk about that. Ludo, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Ludo. I know a few of you, and so I have started TrackIt 6 years ago now. So we're advanced consulting partner, AWS advanced consulting partner. So before I was a software engineer, but not only a software engineer at DDN. So I worked a lot on web object storage and and for me it was really eye-opening to automate everything, and it's really what I loved with AWS. And coming from DDN, you need to do some media and entertainment, and the first customers for TrackIt, they were media and entertainment customers here in LA, and we started to automate some workflow. We do a lot of serverless. So, and I think today, yes, it's a lot of serverless, but still a lot of media workflow, or serverless in media workflow.
How about you, Isa?
Yeah, Yusaki Rose with the TrackIt team, work on the business development end. You know, newer to the industry, so excited to learn. This is going to be a great opportunity for me to hear you guys' questions and yeah, see how we might be able to help. Nathan?
Hey, I'm Nathan. I joined TrackIt 5 months ago, and I'm a software engineer at TrackIt, and I'm actually working from France, from Montpellier, but I'm actually in Toulouse in south of France. Nice to meet you, everybody.
Thanks, Nathan. So one of the reasons we did invite Nathan here is he implemented a really interesting AI ML workflow for one of our customers, Jukin Media. And if people are interested, we can show a demo of what that is. So before we jump into that, though, there's a few different topic areas, and I'd like to know what you guys would like to talk about. So the ones that came to mind, one of them that's interesting, because we do have storage people and MAM people here, is how hybrid architecture should be implemented, or how they could be implemented. You know, who's doing the data movement, who's doing the tracking, who decides what goes where. That to me is a pretty interesting topic. So that's one. Another one is there is a really cool new service that AWS just announced called Interactive Video Service. It's basically the engine that powers Twitch. And anybody who needs to be able to very easily create live streams that can go very broad, is very scalable and at low latency. It's just a really cool new service. And we're doing an implementation now. We're pasting Twitch together with both Zoom and the Unreal Engine, which there could be some interesting applications for, where you might have. And the problem with doing it on something with just like Zoom natively is that if you have a lot of Zoom people working interactively, video can get herky-jerky because it tries to, match everybody's frame rate, basically. Using something like a separate streamer like IVS allows you to go to broadcast things in a much different manner. You might imagine with Unreal Engine, people building virtual sets, and you have some people in it walking around, but you might want to stream it across the world to people in other places, directors, other product owners, to be able to see that. That's one thing. Another one would be distance learning, potentially, where you might use Zoom as, you have a panelist, but then you're broadcasting to 1,000 students who could be all over the place. Some interesting applications. So IVS is really interesting if you haven't heard about it. That's something we could talk about. And then we call what AWS calls the Media to Cloud workflow, which is a packaged AI ML service. So they have all these tools, things like recognition, which looks for faces or objects or other things, and a bunch of other services do things like transcription. But they package that all up into an easy-to-use service called Media to Cloud. That we built something for that Nathan could take us through. So those are kind of what's off the top of my head. Love to hear if anybody else has some hot buttons that they want to talk about. Going once, going twice. Okay.
Roger, Josh, any question about storage in AWS maybe you have for the community or anything? I'm sure, Josh, we have a lot of questions for you. You know a lot of the storage in AWS, but I don't know, maybe Roger or William, any hot question about storage in AWS or thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you've hit on a couple of things that are pretty interesting to me. I know a couple of my colleagues have been in contact with Dave and Chuck at EMAM, and they're on another call. I think they're going to plan to join later. We are seeing a lot of interest both internally at AWS and with customers on accessing some of the sort of media entertainment centric AI and ML services like recognition and elastic transcode. And we recently released a feature where we interoperate with S3 that opens that to our customers. I'm not here to give you guys a product pitch, but I'd certainly be interested in that one in seeing a demo of that if the group does, Brad, that you mentioned earlier. And then just understanding how the ecosystem can come together to potentially develop some stuff to take out to customers jointly. I mean, I know we have some co-opetition on this call a little bit, but I don't think it's too flagrant.
Yeah, it's interesting. Not too bad. One of the things that we do find quite a bit are people who are trying to paste together different parts of the puzzle, right? So, are there APIs, and everybody has different APIs? Are there other ways to architect solutions that you can, build the crossword or build the jigsaw puzzle in such a way that maybe you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time? So storage company might have a data movement capability that maybe wants to be triggered by a MAM, but no MAM is going to give you that same sort of triggerable output as the next MAM company, and the same with the different storage companies, right? So, all right,
you sparked something that I'd be interested in, whether the TrackIt guys or Chuck or Dave. So, more and more, have you guys heard this thing kind of coming out of there's some large opportunities that are at AWS right now around the idea of a content lake, the concept of a content lake? We're getting a lot of interest in that, where essentially people are like, you know what, it'd be great together if Cumulo and EMAM could just stitch something together and put it all in one solution for me. And I am not technical enough to dive into the intricacy of that, but we're definitely hearing it both from AWS customers and AWS themselves.
Yeah, I mean, that typically happens with our clients. It's somebody, 5 people come into the table and they have 5 different ideas and they all want to work together, and just being able to pull that together. The biggest thing too is that, where the media is it available, and how much does it cost? That kind of thing. And we were kind of looking at Cumulo, just as an example. We pulled together kind of workstations in the cloud with Cumulo storage, and we had guys editing directly in the cloud, and managing all that. And then, somebody brings up the point where, maybe S3 is a little bit expensive. There might be some other storage we want to use, that kind of thing, or move it off to Glacier. And then also the other key thing is being able to manage the archive levels. So like in AWS, being able to say, I need it in an hour, or I need it 3 hours. I really don't care. It could be next day, on the recovery side as well. So we're working on a big project right now where they're looking at it and saying, I want to archive everything, but then on selects, I want to pull it together, and then I want to store it on certain storage that's less cost, maybe mid-level, because maybe they need that production back again in about a month or two. And then they need fast storage to edit off like a Cumulo or, any kind of combination thereof. And then maybe local, like with, Scale Logic or something, kind of locally. So they want to kind of pull all that together and then be able to manage that. And then we have that kind of capability to kind of pull that and manage it all together for them. So it's kind of interesting how that plays. And then everybody wants a report on what the cost is of every production and what storage they've used,
100%.
So you pull that all together and,
Actually, we have a good case study on this content lake we did for a VFX company. So it's a VFX company, and the content lake is S3. But not only S3, actually, they have a lot of local storage also. But for AWS, the content lake is S3. And after that, they spin up EBS volumes, and we put the pipeline and the automation and helping them to spin up EBS volume for a small type of efforts, and FSX for Luster for large efforts. And so but everything always go back to S3 and the on-prem storage. So, and that it's what is a content lake for them. And it's definitely something first we see it a lot in the media industry, especially VFX, because it's interesting for them. But also we have some biotech use case where they use the same type of workflow, and actually it was the same. And I'm sure William still experiencing the same at DDN, but with Brad and I, when we were at DDN, we were seeing the same type of workflow, not only in media, but also sometimes in biotech or HPC. And so we see it a lot. And today, what I think the difference, especially with Cumulo, because I think we have a close relationship with Cumulo. Before it was only AWS products, EBS volumes, S3, Glacier. But now we start to see more and more Weka.io, Cumulo, and we see more vendors coming. And depending on the requirements or the budget of the customer, different products are getting access to this content lake.
Yeah, I think you're right. And
Go ahead.
And I was going to say, just to add on that, right? It's all the same across industries, right? Same things, right? So there's access to the content, but then digital security, we're spending a lot of time with more and more around audits. So for example, going from the media industry to other industries, there's a lot more maturity around digital security. So we see a lot, for example, with deep learning, autonomous vehicles, it's the same kind of problems as what you're talking about, right? You're capturing massive amounts of data, holding on to it for a long period of time, but you have a lot of requirements for controlling access, but also at the same time, holding on to data for long periods of times, et cetera. So it's interesting. It's definitely across industries, it's the same types of problems. Something that's kind of surprised me quite a bit, I would say, over the last 2 years is you talked about all these different tiers of storage or types of storage, is how much actual performance difference there really is in the cloud, right? It's not one size fits all, and there is differentiation between the different platforms. So I was kind of surprised that, yeah, how much difference. And I mean, it's great that we've got consultants like you guys, right? Experts like you guys that can actually help guide customers into making the right choices, not just for economic, but also technical reasons. There's a need for that, huge need for it.
Yeah. And Ludwig, could you share the case study? Because that's a lot of conversations now. cloud sounds great, but I'm sorry, what does it cost? And you know, that's when people get really confused really quickly.
I'm sorry, which case study?
He was a case study with a VFX house that, wow.
Yes, I mean, like actually, I don't know. Maybe what we can do, I can find like maybe we can start with Nathan showing like, and I can find actually the architecture diagram of this specific case study, and we can go over. But maybe what we can do, we can start with Nathan, like showing like actually like the AI ML pipeline on the top of a content lake, for example, and after so that it gives me like few minutes to find the architecture diagram for the VFX project we did. And so that we can talk about it. And like actually the case study is public also, but I'm going to put it in the chat. But after that, we can go over this one. Does it sound like a good plan?
Yes, for sure. Let me share my screen.
So before you get started, Nathan, just to kind of set the stage on this one, everybody seems to be interested in AI and ML capabilities in the cloud, right? And what we're finding is it really isn't as scary a thing as it sounds like. So we have a customer called Jukin Media, which is a really cool customer. They go out, they look around the web for the latest cat video, and they contact the owner and say, hey, this is great. We can help you monetize this cat video. So they'll go out and they'll try and turn these videos into viral videos, and they take a part of the revenue stream that they get for advertising. So if you've seen any viral videos, there's a good chance there's a Jukin Media logo in the bottom right of it. So they bring in tons and tons and tons of video. And they've got a bunch of problems like making sure they didn't bring in the same video before, making sure that there's no digital rights associated with it, that they might have a problem with music, other things. And at the same time, they want to figure out best ways to monetize it. So they want to use AI tools to say, hey, is there a Pepsi bottle in any of these videos? Because then maybe we can go to Pepsi and help get advertising for Pepsi. Or is there a celebrity in this video? So they want to use all these different AI tools to try and better monetize this process of making viral videos and making money off it. And they asked us to help them build a pipeline for them. So Nathan, go ahead.
So to do it, we use the Media to Cloud. Media to Cloud offers highly scalable, elastic, and secure cloud services that help customers more easily ingest, store, process, deliver, and manage content in the cloud. So this solution sets up a serverless end-to-end ingest workflow to move your video assets and associated metadata to the cloud. During the migration, the solution analyzes and extracts valuable metadata from your video and images using Amazon Recognition, Amazon Transcribe, Amazon Comprehend. Media to Cloud also includes a simple web interface that enables you to immediately start ingesting and analyzing your video if you want to test it. So it really all starts with uploading your content, your content into S3. Each time a video is pushed to S3, it will trigger this workflow. The first thing is that we have ingested step functions that are going to create MD5 checksum for our video. So we have details on the exact size of it. We are also going to run media info that is going to extract some meaningful metadata about our file. At this moment, all this process is being run on the original file. But for the rest of the workflow, Media Convert is coming in and will create a proxy version of the video that we can use later on. By a proxy version, I mean a video that is converted to be cost efficient. For instance, if we have a very large video, we don't want to be passing that through all the rest of the workflow into the machine learning that's just going to create extra cost. So we are going to create a compressed version, an MP4 version of the content, still with all the same audio, tracks, resolutions, and information that we need to work in the workflow. So the next step is the analytics state machine. It will ingest our video and pass it to Amazon Recognition, transcribe, comprehend services to get meaningful information back about the content. And what is really cool about this solution is that it's built in. You don't need to have a deep understanding of machine learning to use this solution. It all comes out of the box ready. So the final step is the labeling and indexing that is using SageMaker Ground Truth. This is where we can come in and identify people within the video content and send that information back to Ground Truth, so we can get further indexing going on. Information is stored in a combination of DynamoDB, metadata, details about the content, and all the information from machine learning services is going to be stored in S3 alongside the proxy files. Amazon Elasticsearch index that information, so we have an API gateway that we can query to get information about all our content. So this is basically all for the architecture diagram. We can switch on the demo later if you want to see the solution in action. I don't know if anybody have question about it.
I mean, I have one question. So, you know, taking this to other customers, obviously these guys are big worldwide, et cetera, but is there any pushback on kind of the operational overhead for running this system, right? Because there's a lot of services involved and a lot of, you know, infra involved of running a similar, smaller system, or have you not seen that?
One of the things that we have seen is, Ludo, you're muted, Ludo. One of the things we have seen, Ludo's probably going to amplify in this, is that we've been able to very rigorously quantify the costs on a per minute basis. So this customer in particular said, okay, my average video is 10 minutes. How much is the 10 minutes going to cost me to run through this? And we know those numbers down to, you know, the penny basically. The other thing though is that we have another customer looking at the same thing and they say, you know, we really don't need to use Media Convert because we already create our own proxy files on site. So, and they don't necessarily want to use the same storage structure for you storage guys. So what can we do to customize this? And maybe some of it's stripping out the cost, but other is just stripping out unnecessary steps. For that customer, we're investigating how do we customize the pipeline, take out the Media Convert to give us the proxies, and maybe do something else on the storage side, because they as well, they're, somebody mentioned this before, want to have a better knobs to turn about where their content is in their life cycle when, right?
Sure.
Yes, another pushback we can see, like people, they love the type of features, but usually it's like, well, we saw step functions, Lambda. So it means like you need, I mean, it's not out of the box, and like a lot of things in AWS. So you need to start to do some code, and that it's one of the pushback usually we get. And it's also something kind of interesting with AWS, with that type of project. Usually they found one AWS partner to say, okay, don't worry about it. We are going to bootstrap you, and we are going to fund like TrackIt or any AWS partner to help you to test the solution. And the solution, like actually, like this specific solution, most of customers, they don't need everything from the solution. Like for example, like a lot of customers already have their content in S3. Why do you need to ingest? Or why do we need to create proxies? You already have the proxies. So usually you need a lot of modifications, and it can be what can be like scary for some of our, especially media customers. Like we have big customer, like for example, I think about Pixel Logic, where they have like engineering team. So it's not a challenge for them. But we have a lot of customers where, like especially in broadcast, where they don't have an engineering team, and like to see like Lambda functions, well, okay, what do we do with that? So that is one of the pushback.
Okay.
One of the things, the other parts of it is, you know, this is one of the pieces of the workflow, and especially in media entertainment, right? All these got 12 different workflows. They all got to talk together some way or another. So trying to build a framework where you can feed one thing into the next and still maintain control and manage your costs is kind of a big deal. And I think, for example, you mentioned Pixel Logic, customer of ours. So they have a MAM that they use, but they've also created their own workflow management system, which they call Felix. Felix or Phoenix? And, you know, it seemed that, and they have a big engineering team who built this thing. But all it really does is it spins up jobs and it makes sure that the right content is in the right place. And it seems like there's got to be a better way. And that was kind of one of my earlier questions. Like, you got storage companies that can automate the movement of data around the various tiers, on-prem, cloud, vice versa. And then you got MAM vendors who can do some of those same things, maybe in a smarter way because they know more, but it's not the full solution. We run into over and over again how to, you know, build the whole pipeline. Actually, William, you're a good one. You were at Deluxe forever. How Deluxe managed the movement? Although it's probably not a lot of cloud stuff there.
There was quite a bit that was starting, but I think the difficulty was really ultimately just became it wasn't so much a technical issue as it became an organizational issue, kind of what you're describing, right? You got to set up the pipelines, figure out what tools to use, how to get the right people involved. And so at least by the time I left, you know, we were dabbling into workflows. But really what I saw was really just that difficulty, that kind of first barrier to going in and finding the right partners. I think at the time it was not kind of maturing. Whereas I see the opposite now, where in other industries, you've got organizations that are very, very good at the technology piece. So strong DevOps, strong engineers, but sometimes have a hard time defining what their end goal is. And so what's great about that is basically you can figure out kind of what their workflow is, what they want to do, and you help guide them into it, but they've got all the pieces to do all the development work and push it up into the cloud. So it's kind of an interesting mix, but that's part of personally my interest, is to see kind of, it's interesting to see how the media industry has kind of evolved into that piece of it as well.
Yeah, for us, I mean, you know, going in and looking at all these different types of clients, everybody's different, you know, and they change so many times. This one project we're doing in Canada, it started in January. Of course, we got hit by COVID, and then, you know, we were supposed to go up there and sit down and go through the workflows, but the workflows have changed at least 30 times, you know, and so we even just had one change again this morning, you know, on one of the last calls. We're almost at the end, you know, and then all of a sudden we got to change the workflow. And so things changed so much when we started training the actual end users on the platforms. You know, storage is great, and then we got to manage kind of the thought process of where we move things and how things, you know, we got a program for stupidity as well, you know, so, you know, kind of managing that whole process. But things change so often, and everybody's different on how they want to do it. So Nuke Thomas, our director of technology, has programmed so much into it that you could take, you know, to get to Tuesday, it could be 15 different directions, you know, to get there. So we try to kind of pull it all together and then try to work with all of you on, you know, different platforms and various things to kind of make sure it all works together. But those workflows, like I said, they're different for everybody, you know, just depending on, and then each department, like we have one customer, Charter. We just started with a new division of Charter, and their workflows are completely different from the original installation we did. And so we're now building a separate system for them, you know, and it's totally different. So it's pretty interesting.
One thing that you guys mentioned a little earlier, I'm kind of curious about, so you mentioned, you know, code reuse. So, you know, when we started building VFX pipelines like 15, 20 years ago, a lot of customers would have the same types of problems, right? They want to set up these workflows, set up these pipelines, and they'd all need the same common libraries. And at some point, people got fed up. These technical directors got fed up moving from one company to another and rewriting the same code. So kind of curious as to, when it comes to these cloud-based workflows, has the industry come around some standard libraries to not have to, you know, and basically shared them as open standards just to avoid having to do code rewrites? What's been your experience, Ludo or Brad, on that?
I think, well, it depends. Well, first, not necessarily VFX, but AWS try to be as high level as possible, especially on the media pipeline, and so they try to provide services. So yes, you don't have you don't have to create the wheel every time. So that you see it, and they're trying to make your life easier. And so you just have to put the glue together, like just to connect the different modules together. You still need to do that, and it's still a lot of work. But you have partners, but yes, but it's still, I think the ecosystem is still light on that, and like especially on AWS, because like you are still missing, like AWS is very like rough on like how it works together, and like for a lot of end user, it's still scary. But like the code reuse, you see it at different level, but I think it didn't change much. Just like I think now it's at a higher level. All the basic features, anything like related to video or related to video files or rendering, I think it's covered. But now the problem is like the glue to plug services together. When I'm sure any like any post-production labs or any VFX labs, everyone is doing the same and recreating the wheel just to put everything together.
It's funny, about 3 months ago or so, Udo and I were talking, and we knew we were going to have some extra software development resources, and we were throwing around different ideas of what we could do with them. And one of them was to build a graphical front end that would be extensible to video services inside of AWS. So where you take, a block that was a transcode and a block that was a DRM and a block that was AI, and be able to graphically move these things around and connect the dots and build the workflows. And you've seen some of those same kind of things in other workflow tools, right? We ended up doing something different. I think we were maybe a little daunted by the complexity of building sort of this virtual front end where we could, back end all these other services and plug and play them in a graphical way. But, I don't know of anybody doing anything like that. And it's a very manual process. Seems to be a very manual process over and over again. There are a couple areas we've managed to at least codify a little bit. For example, like identity and access management. So we've built some core templates and boilerplate that we can use, because everybody wants to manage IAM for users. So now we at least have something we can reuse, and we reuse that practically on every project. So it'd be good if we can get to a place where we can do some of these other things as sort of pre-built, pre-built pieces that we can piece together. Hey, Steve, looks like we got somebody new joining.
Yes, hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm pretty good. How about you?
You missed so much good stuff, Steve.
I think I did, but I was on another one of these with another group. Yeah, I appreciate it.
So maybe Nathan, actually, we didn't give you a chance to show to complete the demo. Do you want to show quickly, like the real pipeline working and like what it does on the video files? Maybe it can be neat.
Yes, absolutely. I will share again my screen. Where is it? Okay. Just right here. Okay. Okay. Is it good for you? Do you see my screen?
Yes, we do see it.
Okay. So this is a demo portal that Media2 Cloud provides when you deploy the stack. So this is a web application that simply uses the API provided by Media2 Cloud. So you can also easily customize it, because you just have to call the initial API. I already uploaded some assets, and so if we take a closer look, I'm just hiding the meeting controls, sorry. So if we take a closer look at the file, we can see that we have technical metadata provided by MediaInfo that have been run during the workflow. We have the codec, we have the IND5, the aspect ratio, a lot of general information about the file. We can also download all the information gathered from recognition, from comprehend and transcribe all the AI/ML services. This is a simple JSON file with all the results that have been detected. Here we have the subtitles generated by transcript. So we can trigger a little radio button to see it on the player if you want or not. Next, we have Amazon recognition results. And what is very cool with Amazon recognition is that you have custom labels. You can identify the objects and scenes in images that are specific to your business needs. So if you need to customize it, you can do it too. You can see that it have detected some labels on celebrity. We also have Amazon Comprehend, which is a natural language processing service. The service identifies the language of the text, extract key phrases, places, people, brands, or events. It also understands how positive or negative the text is, analyzes text using tokenization and parts of the speech. It also automatically organizes and a collection of text files by topic. The last thing is Amazon Ground Truth. We have the ability to create a snapshot where we can focus on a particular face, define who this person is, and then send that off to Ground Truth to get some additional indexing. So this is a little preview of what you can do with Media to Cloud. You also have some custom settings for the language. There is a lot of different language supported by the solution. You can edit the minimum confidence for the face detection, all the detection. You can also create a workforce that will allow you to create a new snapshot. For example, you can mandate a group of employees to select the new faces and create snapshot of them to increase your database. So I don't know if you have question about the demo solution.
So, and again, like AWS is creating that type of solutions. It's really like at the end of the day, they want to sell like AWS recognition. They want to sell like all AI/ML services they have, and and they know like it's not easy to spin up because like by default the services are just an API, and you need to do something with the API. So it's why they build this type of solutions just for people to try it and say, oh yes, it's that piece of the puzzle I want to use in my MAM software, or I want to use if I'm able to digest it at my business at my company level in my own applications. But so at the end of the day, they don't care if you use Media to Cloud. What they want people to use, it's like recognition or transcribe or any services they have in the backend.
Yeah, I think one of the key takeaways here, it is not hard to do this stuff anymore. And, to get, time-coded data about what's in the content is great. There's also another cool service that's going to be added. It's available as an open source thing now, but it's a shot detection capability where you can see, changes in scene, change of shot, black frames, those kind of things, which a couple of our customers are really interested in, to be able to jump shot to shot in a frame accurate way. So it's really, it's a collection of really good stuff that seems to be everybody is interested in. Definitely, and with storage people, definitely drives storage needs and workflow needs both on premise, up and back down.
So as long as it's a mixed group, can I throw out there? So for M&E, which is obviously the focus today, how many people are finding AI services useful? And part two of the question, how does AWS offerings stack up against the other public offerings? Just throw that out there.
I don't know. Can anybody, from the first part of it, it's definitely a hot topic, and it's a touchy one though, because it reduces human some work that humans do today, going through data and collecting meaningful metadata. So people are interested in it as an accelerator and as a potential cost reduction. But I mean, all of our customers in one way or another interested in it, even if it's just a piece of it, just like sentiment analysis. Are there people angry in here or happy? Even that alone.
I try to think about the few use cases we had on AI ML, and usually it's hard. Actually, it's more like we try to solve a problem. We don't care about AI ML. So and also it's an issue with AWS because AWS is not pushing, like they're pushing the AI ML service. They're not really trying to talk to media customers saying, oh, you are going to solve like how your buyer. Actually, we have one customer where they have like a large asset of like content, and they just want to push to buyers what they need to buy for the broadcasters, what they need to buy next month. And the broadcasters, they say, oh, just give me like 10 titles or 20 titles, but they never know what type of titles they want. So they spend a lot of time to try to pick titles. And so like we just build this pipeline, a bit very similar to what Nathan showed, where it helps the buyer and using AWS Personalize to find what is like the next list of asset the broadcaster want to buy or specific broadcaster want to buy. And so that it's like there's like few use cases. There's also use case on like on metadata augmentation. That one is an easy one. So we always had it. It's very straightforward. I think we had one also on shot detections. So that one, it was like, oh yes, we want to be able to split the data, inside a specific content. So it's very specific use case. Like people, they don't think about AI ML. They just think, okay, we have a use case we need to solve, and like it can be like ad insertions and usually the answer is AI ML. I mean, like it's one of the AI ML service from AWS. And so now I think like the AI, we are very close to AWS, so we don't have much knowledge about like Google Cloud and Microsoft, but like the AI ML team is very involved and really try to, and also what is very interesting, it's one of the team with more like a lot of funding budget. So it would be very easy for them to give money to a partner if the use case makes sense, if they see profit at the end of the day, to give money to the partner, say, okay, go to help this customer to fix their issue. And it's harder, for example, serverless. We do a lot of serverless. It's way more difficult to get money from the serverless team, service team at AWS than what it is to get from the AI ML team. So the AI ML team really understand, they think people need their services and they know they're going to be in love with the services as soon as they start to use it. But they know also it's not easy to start to use it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, the barrier to entry. And I mean, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit, right? What we're talking here, right? Things like data management, right? Data augmentation, translation, anything natural language processing. Reading a lot of papers around SIGGRAPH and some of the more advanced publications, I'm really curious to see what happens when the creative tasks start getting involved as part of that process as well, because that's really where ultimately, right, I don't want to say the bread and butter of it comes into play, but that's really going to be a big shift. And already we're seeing, so there was a demo a couple of weeks ago from Ross, the switcher company, And so essentially they're using deep learning, they're using AI to replace an entire control room. So they had this day-long CNN live broadcast that was run by an AI system. And then we're starting to hear things like in certain circles around robo-color. So you get your famous colorist that's translated into an AI, and you just basically feed all these images into it, and you get images colored the same way that are going to look and feel the same way a certain colorist or a certain director of photography would have tweaked them. So you start seeing that auto edit, et cetera. So I'm kind of curious as to how far that's going to evolve. But definitely, I know that it's published. If you look into some of the higher end circles, you're starting to see that part of the workflow get automated. So, once we have technical plus creative together, I think that's going to drive a lot of demand, at least from this team for the next couple of years, just integrating that whole pipeline together and tuning it. But again, it's how's the business going to receive that? We'll see. Have you guys seen anything like that? Anybody on this group had to deal with kind of AI touching on the creative side?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the customers are, trying to put movies together based on AI. So they'll take all their clips that they had, throw it at AI, and then the actual clips put together the movie. So we've seen that a little bit. We don't get involved in that. We just provide the content for it, but they'll use AI to kind of do that. That's slowly starting to happen. That becomes lazy editing, but I think there's just a lot of people out there that just love to still be creative and, frame by frame, and do their little edits and so on. I still think that editors and producers and so on, they want to stick with it and they want to control it and they want to manage the whole thing versus hand it off to a machine. So
that makes sense. But I think, if you build on that, right? So right now we're taking away all the asset management piece of it, right? We're building these big content lakes, right? We're throwing all these assets into a repository, we're organizing it. The next step after that is going, if you talk about editing, the assistant editor, right? So what you're saying, right? So I'm going to organize the bins for the editor. I'm going to do some rough cuts that kind of make sense. And then the creative person, the editor, is going to go and sit and have everything kind of pre-planned. And then you go one step further and the editor gets replaced. But you think about, especially with COVID, right? There's a lack of content. So I wonder if there's a motivation from outside of the money piece, right? There's a motivation from the content owners or the content creators to actually use those tools to kind of increase their throughput, their ability to pump out more content quickly.
Yeah, and I kind of think that more in the news side or the quick stuff that needs to get up quickly. I like the weather, the hurricane it just went through. Weather Channel, I was watching it, and it's almost like they could have put AI together with that to put all the highlights. Of course, the guy standing there in the wind and getting halfway blown away, and they could take all those highlights and just have AI piece the thing together. On the rough cut part, I can see that. You'll do reality TV shows with 300 hours for an hour show, and have AI just kind of take it and put the rough cut together, and then have the editor kind of finish it. I can kind of see that.
Actually, that's a really good use case. Reality TV right there, right? It's a lot of assets. It's tagging. It's kind of the workflows that, Ludo and team were showing, right? It's just basic image processing. Oh, something interesting is happening here. Or I got this face that popped up. And that could be interesting. Or I heard a bad word. Somebody got upset. This is going to make great TV. I want that clip. But those are, these are not far-fetched ideas, right? It sounds like it's within the realm of reach. So if people are not doing it now.
It's interesting that I watch a show on YouTube. It's called SV Delos. And it's these guys that have actually, for 10 years, have sailed around the world. And so they actually have videotaped every aspect of their whole thing. But they actually sit on the boat and edit the whole thing. And spend half their day editing, and then they whenever they get internet, I think they have satellite uplink now, but they have to edit the whole thing. I could just see them just throwing everything together and then have an AI do it, kind of thing.
That's cool.
Coming up on time, I was going to say, Brad, coming up on time, have you seen, you're kind of in tune with everybody. You're everybody's best friend. And
Oh yeah. Thanks.
no, I mean, no, but you're great. You always have like ties into everything, fingers in every ties. And kind of the question there, have you seen any companies around like the media business that are doing kind of these higher level workflows, automations, deep learning, et cetera?
I think just dabbling. So if we have one customer, they got a big development team in Cairo, of all places. They're probably the furthest along, I would say, and their business is one that makes a lot of sense for those kind of things because there's a lot of repetitive work. It's the same kind of thing. Localizations, translations, those media workflows that are very well defined. What I haven't seen is, and it'd be interesting to talk to somebody like Dalet, right, who does a lot of news, or Abbott, I guess, doing a lot of dailies, and because I don't really have many ties in those places anymore. But it would seem to me, well, I take that back. Dalet, a year ago, I know had some pretty in-depth AI efforts around sort of the rough cut piece of it. Now that I think about it. But that's probably where that's going to come from. It's probably going to come from the creative companies versus somebody like AWS to do that, I would think. But there's opportunity. You got to run it someplace, right? And running things as services that only happen once in a while are good for bursting into the cloud. So great discussion. It is noon or so we're at the hour. Before I let you guys go, I have two questions. One, has this been useful, interesting, fun? And if so, what do you think we should talk about the next time?
It was really interesting. Some good discussions. Seems like there's a lot of storage folks. I don't know if anybody's interested in hearing about cloud migrations going from on-prem to cloud and also the reverse. I'd be interested in hearing what kind of experiences the MNE customers are having, moving data into the cloud and then coming back for whatever reason. Yeah. I don't know if that's interesting.
Yes, I guess I don't know. It can be an interesting topic, and we see it a lot. Not so much in M&E, but we do see a lot of cloud migration going on, but not much in M&E. It's more like old IT, at least for us, and based on like the type of customer we touch. But yes, it will be something to talk about.
Any other?
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, some of the other, that very good discussion, but the other key thing too is security level of all that content.
Really good one.
We hear it all the time. Well, how secure is it, Chuck? And I go, as secure as the cloud and Microsoft are, kind of thing. And so kind of getting into that a little bit.
Yeah, that'd be a really good topic. And, there's along that line, one of the things we were thinking of, if we start getting slightly bigger groups, we could invite a core AWS resource to come in and address that. For example, on the security and the media side, that one we could invite somebody in and have sort of a special topic for that. So that's a good one. Anybody else? Roger, what do you think?
I think it was very interesting and fun as well, and worth my time. And I second William's idea to talk about cloud migration into and maybe from the cloud. And no one knows with all that COVID stuff going on, if M&E will migrate into the cloud sooner or later. At least partially, many tried. There are 73 ways to work nowadays remotely. And what's the best way and what is the fastest way? So it might be that moving M&E into the cloud is the next option for some companies.
Like the tsunami, a couple of years ago killed tape, right? Moved everybody to nonlinear. So now, COVID's just going to push everybody from the prem to the cloud or to distributed workflows. I mean, that's what's happening.
Steve, I know you joined late. What do you think?
All good stuff that I heard while I was on. One of the things that I look at as more of an operations guy is the cost, the up, the down, storage, getting a real grip on that, especially with video, audio. Our platforms are, showing videos and having audio in a digital music space service.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I'd like to know a little more of and get an understanding of, and maybe this isn't the place for that.
I think we could, that also might be just a, good single topic discussion, all of stuff. How do people manage their costs? Should their cost expectations be? Where does it make sense to run something in the cloud, and where doesn't it, right?
Exactly, and how do you model that if you're looking to migrate into the cloud?
Yeah.
I mean, and it's always the first question, like not the first question, but the second question coming. It's like where my money goes. And for last 6 years, we have been like very involved in any AWS infrastructure. Like the first question usually, oh, I need to do this job, please, can you help us to do that? It needs to be done for yesterday. And the second question said, oh, where is my money going? Because like, okay, I mean, I'm fine to pay, but I don't understand. And AWS is not the greatest company to explain how you spend your money. And also it's like a paradigm shift about.
Did you say they're not the best company?
Yeah.
I just wanted to throw that in for twice.
Yeah.
Maybe we should invite them next time.
Well, I'm sure actually they will be fine to explain, say, oh, yes, you just need, and so they have like a lot of great products around that, and just focus on the cost management. And actually, a long time ago, we tried to build one. And so like we still have like few users because it's a very common topic. And yes, I mean, like, especially on media, like it's first, even EC2, it's not easy to understand. Like it's not easy to understand how much it's going to cost you, like a virtual machine. But I don't even talk about like this media, like this AI/ML services. It's even worse, or the media services, because you don't know if you pay by the minute, if you pay by the type of quality. Like it's very, very hard to size how much it's going to cost you. And even when you are using it, it's very hard to understand what you are paying. So it's a lot of effort.
Yeah, but one of the things we could talk about is how we structure things, so at least you can get adequate reporting maybe after the fact, at least doing a better job of trying to figure out things ahead of time, but certainly after the fact. One of the we're building tools to try and make sure things are correctly tagged, and then be able to extract the information associated with smart tags to say, okay, this was associated with that customer, with that project. And here's what the cost was, whether it's for chargeback or just so you can run your business better. But it's a really great topic, Steve.
Okay.
Anybody else? Anything else? All right. Great talking to all you guys. Talking to some people I haven't talked to for a while. That's always great. Thanks for the hour. Probably in 2 weeks or so, I think this has been pretty successful, so we'll send out an invite for the next one. We'll try a little harder to get a bigger group, and we definitely need some end users on this thing, that's for sure. So we'll go out and try and promote it a little more. And if you're interested and you think you have end users that would be interested in joining in the conversation, that would be great too. So love to have them. And the last thing I guess I'll say, and I think most of you guys are already on there, but we did create a LinkedIn group for M&E with AWS. Intended to be an open group, and we didn't do anything but create the thing. So we're hoping that turns into something a little bit more. So feel free to invite people there as well.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Next month.
It was great.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.
See you, Brad.
Bye-bye.